Well, David, we've appointed Josh Gowling as our new manager. It's fair to say that we had a range of high quality applicants to choose from, didn't we? How do you think Josh stood out from the rest?
Hi, Ray. Well, just on the applicants, again, I was very impressed with the quality. There were, 8 to 10 you could shortlist, all with good experience. Obviously, we set some criteria around what we're looking for. Must understand this league. Must have, managed in this league if possible. Have good contacts with professional clubs. Also live within a very commutable distance, and play the right kind of football. So we against the criteria, there's a lot of people in the list, good quality applicants who came forward, and getting a short list down, even to the ones we got to, was meaning good candidates were also, who didn't make the list, which was very, very tough. So that just shows whilst we're not performing very well, the incredible pulling power of Darlington as a football club to attract such an impressive list. Answer your question how Josh stood out. I was very, very impressed. Obviously, we did 2 rounds of interviews, supporters group board and main board directors yourself interviewing the first round to get a shortlist for me to see. And we spent last Sunday looking at those candidates. And Josh was very, very impressive, intelligent, articulate, very analytical. He'd actually analysed every single one of our games so far this season. He looked at the goals we'd scored. He looked at the goals we'd conceded, where the ball had been given away, why it had been given away. Also looking at our possession stats in each area of the pitch against the National League average, where we were positive and where we were negative, and where we needed to improve. But also looking how the goals are being scored against us, there's a very, very clear pattern. And it was, whilst you see that on the pitch, having it presented to you in statistical format as well, as just saying, look, you can see this as you watch, but this is how bad it is compared to the national average. And that analysis comes from all the other clubs in our league as well, National League North. So very impressive use of data, but that's just one side of it. That's just one side of it. Data is important, but ultimately, talking about the players, talking about their strengths, talking about their areas for improvement, but also what he talked about in terms of the engagement with the community, engagement with the supporters, the disciplines that he wanted to do, how we wanted to work on our set pieces on our formation, but also the engagement with the academy right the way through to the first team. So very, very impressive all-round performance from Josh that stood him out from the rest.
Bearing in mind that we're on a tight budget, it was also key that Josh has got a large range of contacts to help him strengthen the squad throughout the country.
Yeah, and he's done that successfully in the clubs he's been at. I was unaware he'd played with Eddie Howe and Jason Tindall at Bournemouth, but obviously knows them very, very well. Whether that yields anything from Newcastle, we'll see. But certainly the manager coming in has to have good contacts with North East clubs and professional clubs to bring players in on loan, and hopefully on very minimal fees. So if we need to improve the squad and improve the quality, we've got the contacts in the game to do that.
And he also said 2 or 3 times to us on a couple of occasions that he's also very keen on working with the fans and with community projects, with our foundation. And that can only help the club in many ways, can't it?
Yeah, I think you're talking about further engagement with the squad and in communicating with the fans, but also with the community to strengthen the relationships there, and hopefully that will breed further commercial revenue for the football club as relationships are strengthened.
Now, he's also brought with him as his assistant, Danny Rose. Obviously, we know plenty about Danny. You must be pleased about that appointment as well.
Yeah, well, it's quite interesting because when we unfortunately had to release Alan and Darren, Danny contacted me and offered his services to come in and just look after the bench for us whilst we look for a manager. He put his hat into the ring, but understood his shortcomings at this stage in his managerial career, that coaching was more likely to be his role. And I think when I sounded out the whole list of managers and applicants with the professional clubs in the North East, Danny's name was highly recommended as a very good coach in the making. Obviously, they do their badges together with the professional lads, and he came through as being very clever and articulate as well. So Danny was one that we were interested in. Funny enough, it's a jungle drums moving football. These 2 guys both live in Grimsby. That's a complete coincidence, but we're obviously talking to one another. I think Josh visited Cleethorpes game last weekend and ended up talking to Danny. Danny spent 3 hours there before we even approached Danny. Danny spent 3 hours at Josh's the weekend before we even approached Danny and talked about the coaching roles. So these guys already were talking about potential makeup. And when we found out that actually what we were considering was the same as that Josh was considering, it was just the icing on the cake to bring back somebody who knows the dressing room, knows the players, was very well respected here, and now has the opportunity to put his coaching skills into experience alongside Josh at the football club. So great to have Danny back. I got him very well when he was here, and he's an intelligent young man.
What targets have you set there with them?
Pardon?
What targets have you set there with them?
First and foremost, to get us out of the mess we're in at the moment. Let's get us working on improving our shape and getting up the league, getting some points and moving up that league. This might sound like a pipe dream, but we've got to be looking to get back up at the mid-table. If we get to mid-table, then can we push on and can we actually get anywhere near the playoffs? Again, the target would be, I tell you what, guys, that's to go for. And if you do, let's see what we do when we get there. But quite clearly, the most important thing is getting us immediately out of the predicament we're in, and then we can set some targets in for the longer term. But I'd like to think that's early in the season and there's time to get back on the board. If you look at some of the clean teams like last year, Kidderminster started really poorly and then they ended up on a very strong run towards the end of the season, actually ended up getting promoted. So I'm not saying that's going to be us, but there is the opportunity in this league because it's so competitive. If we find consistency and find goals, keep it tight at the back, then we can move up the table.
We must also ask the fans to support Josh and Danny as much as possible and just create that feel-good factor and get some momentum going.
I don't doubt that. They know. Look, I think it's what the third, something like 3 managers in 11 years or something at Darlington. We've been tremendously loyal with all of the managers that have been here, and we try to build continuity and success. The last year, unfortunately, losing players and having to go around again and build again has been difficult for Alan, and that was you could see that I've got to go and start this all again, and that Alan was tired with that. But the fans stayed with us, and even after a poor run last season and the start of this season, and I'm sure they'll get behind Josh and Danny. And when success breeds success, if we get a good side on the pitch, then the fans will undoubtedly support and get behind. So yes, I mean we've got initially this problem to get out of. There's no doubt about that. So let's stick together and get through that. What we need is the fans supporting the new manager and looking at what we're trying to do, and hopefully we'll be starting to climb the table shortly.